Farming. One of the most bustling trades in the world's history to this date, especially cotton picking, that was monopolized by some really nice and kind individuals in our modern-day society. Hence the manhwa we are bringing to you today. So with your workers ready to pick cotton, let's begin our recap. The manhwa begins with rain pouring outside, when someone suddenly opens the door to a knock, asking who it is. A man slips back his hood and says that it is him, Baron. The bailiff remembers instantly that this was the same man who once saved them from losing their cattle. The villagers once said to him that someday they were going to return the favor, and today is apparently the day he wants that favor cashed in. The Baron then brings forward a child and asks them to take care of her. She is the daughter of his son and his wife, both of whom died just after she turned 8. That is why he cannot take her to Eldaro. The Baron pats Hazel on the head and says, low-key hyping himself up, that he is about to hit something great this time, so she needs to take care of herself. And just like that, he dips. The man's wife looks at him like, bro, what did you just do? This little kid with the straps of slightly different colored fabric, the ragged ends of her dress sticking out underneath her black raincoat. To this woman, it feels like someone just lodged a rock inside her chest. She tells Hazel that she can live here and think of it as her home. And just like that, Hazel will have to help out with chores around the house, just like Emily, Belle, and Noelle. Hazel, however, looks really sad and only says, okay. 1 month later, the woman says to her husband that Hazel always calls them Mrs. and Mr. She is always quiet, keeps to herself, and tidies up after herself wherever she goes. The man shrugs and says that it seems like Hazel is just used to being taken in by other families. He assures his wife that it is all right and that she will settle in nicely. The wife then claps back that he had better fix that fence. She stretches and starts to make bread, thinking to herself that she should not go too soft on Hazel. She plans to start giving Hazel some chores as soon as she turns 10, because even with the help of the other kids, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. But she suddenly pauses, remembering that earlier it was Hazel who asked her for permission, and it also hits her that Hazel never speaks first unless she is promoted to. And what Hazel even says and does is wild. If she needs something, she rushes to check on it. When she sees that there are buds sprouting at the farm, she is stunned because she thought they were ruined by the rain. Noelle casually tells his mom that Hazel helped them plant these buds, and she actually did it herself because everyone else seemed busy. Hazel had said that she didn't know they were going to be thrown away. The woman looks at the plants, thinking they had thrown them all out because they were muddied and tattered, and she is like, hold up, how the heck is Hazel even doing this? Hazel explains that she just sat there and watched them. Just as every person is different, these little beans are different too. When she touched them, she could literally sense how much water, how much soil, and how much sunlight they needed to grow. After that, she simply patted the soil and gave them encouragement. Yes, hype girl energy. And they actually started coming back to life. Both husband and wife look at each other, totally shook, and they shout, Mano del Sol. Dying crops grow into full blooms, animals bear the springs in abundance, and grain fields ripen into a sea of gold with a single touch from the hand of the sun. They never thought in their lives that they would actually see the hand of the sun with their own eyes. And it seems like Hazel's hands are really special. This makes Hazel blush so hard, but she still asks if she can try something else. The man, curious, asks her what exactly she would like to do. She shrugs her shoulders and, without words, it seems like she means winnowing. So he asks her to come with him. And just like that, they all start to run towards something exciting. Just like that, the good days start coming into their lives. The woman is crocheting happily when she looks at the children, and seeing Hazel smiling, she cannot believe that watching someone who used to be so sad become genuinely happy could bring this much joy. And just like that, the real story begins now. But on the other side, the Baron is riding in his carriage. Noelle is looking out the window when he suddenly notices that the carriage of the Baron has arrived. The whole house turns gloomy real quick like. The vibes are officially dead. As soon as they realize he is back, the Baron pushes open the door, walks inside, and tells Belle that it took him longer than expected. Belle acts like she has no clue, playing the whole, oh, where did she run off to act, while the rest of them keep the same energy, pretending nothing's up. But the Baron isn't fooled. Man literally bolts out like he's about to win a track meet, running around to search for her. He heads straight to the stable, and just like that, he finds her. Hazel slaps his hand away, full dramatic flair, and starts yelling that she wants to live here on the farm. The Baron is completely stunned, like his whole CPU just crashed. The old men around chime in, telling the Baron that Hazel should definitely be a farmer, because she was clearly born with some natural talent for farming. But the Baron isn't having it. He insists that Hazel is the only successor of the Mayfield family, period. And just like that, Hazel has to leave this place. She literally can't believe she has to abandon such a beautiful home. She thanks her uncle and aunt and all of them, reminding them to take care of themselves. Hazel gets all teary-eyed when her aunt gives her a basket of fruits as an easy little farewell gift, promising that she can visit them whenever she wants. Hazel then steps into the carriage, her grandfather already knocked out and snoring, while she sits there thinking that someday, somehow, she is going to get her own farm. Flash forward 11 years later, in Roke, a small city smack in the middle of the empire. The whole place is bustling, giving total Main Street energy. Hazel is thanking one of the customers, super grateful for them opening their bank account. She sits back afterward, only to spot a newspaper on the desk. On the front page, it says a farm is up for sale, price tag, 8K gold. Hazel does the math instantly and realizes it will take her like 55 years just to collect that much money. Girl is down bad. Then her manager strolls in, and Hazel's like, why does this dude always gotta show up everywhere, all the time? Like, chill, bro. Finally, it's lunchtime, and Hazel is heading to the bakery underneath the bridge again. And yes, she goes there because the bread is dirt cheap, like 2 silver coins cheap, and she's all about saving those coins. But then someone calls her name. Turns out, it's her grandfather. Just like that, he's back from another one of his mysterious trips. Hazel rushes home with him, asking why he's dressed like that in the middle of April, and if he's already off to another trip. Her grandfather explains that actually, he's gonna leave for a trip to the beach soon, and he's finally hit it big this time. Like, he swears it's the real deal. Hazel sighs, telling him to just go back home because they'll talk about it later. She even slips him some coins so he can grab a coffee and some bread. Meanwhile, she's planning to make him meatloaf for dinner. Grandpa is genuinely moved by this, low-key emotional, and he says that no one in the whole wide world can beat Hazel's meatloaf. But then he gets all mysterious, saying that this time, it's more than just about food and random stuff. Hazel blinks at him like, hold up, what does that even mean? He says that it is actually a gift for her, because he knows she always wanted land, and now her dream has finally come true. She has gotten the farm for herself. Hazel blurts out that, after all, she wanted it, because his one and only grandchild has been talking about it non-stop for the last decade, so he supposed he had to give in at some point. And besides, it's a different story if that farm is technically part of their family's real estate. She thinks maybe she can turn it into a fine hobby, one day even calling it horticulture, edible plant horticulture. That sounds way fancier. Like she's slapping a PhD sticker on farming. She asks him if he is sure that this is some kind of real farm. He admits that, if he is being honest, it is just a plot of land at the moment. But she can cultivate it into a farm, so he is certain she is going to love it, because she'll be shimmying all day long on flat, fertile soil. It will be a small farm, sure, but still plenty big for one person. Plus, the location is top tier. She will find a carriage station, markets, a promenade, cafes, restaurants, and more, all within walking distance. Hazel squints, side-eyeing him, and says, that doesn't sound right at all, because why on earth would a farm be located in a place like this? Her grandfather just shrugs like, duh, of course it is, because it's in the middle of the capital. But he brushes that aside, saying the important part right now is whether they take this land back. He asks if she really thinks their family will ever get the good fortune to own this land again, if they let it slip. Hazel is startled and asks him straight if someone is trying to take their land. He glances at her, sighs, and finally spills the tea. A long time ago, he got the opportunity to buy a house in the capital for a very cheap price, and it came with a plot of land. But later, a man of very high rank and status decided to expand his estate. He bought all the houses in the surrounding area, and their land is the only one left. They said if the owner doesn't show up before May 20th, they will consider it unclaimed and tear down the house. Hazel jolts upright, practically exploding, saying that this can't be happening, because how can some person with power just do such a thing? The Baron assures her that still, there is hope. He has brought all the documents proving their legal rights to the land, and if she hurries, she might just make it in time. She needs to leave immediately so they can get their farm back. Her grandfather is really glad, and Hazel hugs him tight because this land is actually in her name, and she can't believe it. He tells her, of course, it's all in order. They've got every single document right here. Hazel is also happy that now that they've got her back on this, she's going to make sure no one takes this land away from them. Not anyone, not ever. Grandfather and Hazel share that joy, and she bids him farewell. Now she is finally back in her office. Her manager immediately starts yelling at her, saying she's 3 minutes late, and on top of that, why the hell does she look so disheveled? He tells her that if she's going to act this way, she better just quit. Hazel stands there, totally unbothered, and says, fine, she's going to quit. Dead silence drops like a mic, and the manager is left trembling, muttering what the hell just happened here. Hazel calmly sits down, starts writing, and then tosses the resignation letter right in his face. Finally, she has her own farm. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see a golden hair man announcing that they are going to begin the cabinet meeting. And in the middle of all this, Hazel never once considered that someone was actually waiting for her there. In the carriage, it isn't hard to notice that someone is asking what all this commotion at the station is about. It looks like everyone is only now heading back because the victory celebration just ended. Inside the carriage, Hazel is also low-key, hoping to go to the park on May 2nd at Avalon Capital. Hazel sees that she barely made it before the deadline, like, girl was literally speed-running her way here because she absolutely cannot afford to be late. She is stressing and thinking what she should even do when she sees that someone outside is cheering for the knights. An old man casually says that he is just making a toast to His Majesty the Emperor. The old man then also introduces her to the capital, basically acting like her hype tour guide. He says to her that she must be from the countryside, because this place underwent a complete glow-up renovation a couple of years ago, when the new emperor took over the throne. All the violent vagrants packed up their stuff and even cleaned up the mess before leaving, like they were trying to get their deposit back. And Sir Sig showed up in case any trouble decided to rise, but honestly, there was nothing for him to do. Hazel asks him in her head if he is Sir Sig, and a little kid nearby scoffs like, duh, that's the captain of the Holy Thunder Guard. She thinks that he is of House Satch, and belongs to the monstrously powerful Berserk clan. Hazel remembers that she read something like this once, but back then, she was busy reading the agriculture section in the newspaper, because priorities, you know. Now she is walking when she glances at the great knight's boughs on the tree. People say that they are the only 3 sword masters in the entire world. But Hazel knows that the emperor himself is one of them. The young emperor, who was only 22 years old, fought in the territory's wars back when he was just a crown prince, together with his closest friends, the 4 captains of the Holy Guard. Together they brought stability to the borders, basically turning chaos into order like it was a side quest. The king then asks his men what is going on, and the knights report that it seems like someone is out there talking about them. On top of that, the emperor is insanely handsome, like dangerously handsome, the type to make any woman just stop in her tracks and forget her shopping list. But it is more like the idea that having a handsome king is going to lower the taxes. And Hazel is the girl who prefers potatoes over men. She is also wondering what kind of potato will grow best in the capital. She is finally on Street 1, and can't believe that the man of high rank and status Grandpa talked about lives in such a great estate. She is really terrified, but she tells herself to chill because she is the owner of the land. She opens the map and sees that the Mayfield property is lot 79 from the entrance. She looks at the statue of Ramstein I and at the long, unknown government promenade with its fountain plaza, all guarded. She looks around at a lot of things and pauses, only to realize this must be the Grand Garden. It feels massive. She thinks her land must be somewhere close to it. She had been so worried it was some kind of dream, but this is really here. This is her farm, and she is finally in the middle of the forest like she always dreamed, surrounded by the garden's lush greenery. The only problem is this huge, imposing castle right next to it. She wonders why there is a castle, but now that it comes to her, she remembers passing a statue of the king on the way here, and seeing government buildings and guards. She gasps at how absurd it seems that the man of very high rank and status is none other than the emperor. She feels crushed because how is she going to tell Grandpa that they can't go against their emperor? They would have to surrender like the vagrants beneath the castle walls. Doing the wise thing seems obvious, but in the middle of all this, she accidentally opens a gate. Girl thinks she should get her hand off this as soon as possible, but wait, she is already inside. Her heart is really beating fast as she sees land that is hers. There is no place in the world with her name on it yet. She plops to the ground and thinks that this land doesn't need to worry because she is here. Hazel checks that the soil is full of nutrients. It has been left uncultivated for so long, it feels like it is begging her to plant something. She rips off the nameplate of her farm now because she is sure that not even the emperor will be able to drive out the legal owner of this land. They can try to kick her out all they want, but she isn't going to give it up that easily. So here it is, time to get started. After that talk, She has already planted her feet on this land, and just like that, she is all set to start farming. Now that the preparations are done, it seems like she should finally begin. She steps out, takes notes that there are still a couple of hours left before sundown, so she should be starting by pulling out some weeds. She looks at the stalks. Oh snap, they're potato stalks, fresh and crisp, looking like they're about to serve her some top-tier carb heaven. She already decides where she is going to plant all the important stuff, and she notes that she should be able to pluck the fox mint leaves in a fortnight and put them to good use. She is planning to plant some anise, basil, lemongrass, and claw too. Like, talk about a master chef starter pack, because they should come in handy around the farmhouse. Now it is time to pull some weeds. Ever since she was a kid, all she had to do was put her hand on the weeds, and boom, they would come right out, root and all. Today they are coming out even more smoothly for some reason, and she is like, slay? So now she is all ready to end this before the sun goes down. Then we see that 3 men are walking nearby, talking about some random stuff, when the middle guy notices that the smoke door is open. He is instantly big mad about this. Just then, she hears some sounds, and the 3 of them are all dazed when they see that what she is doing looks great with all this farming business. They look like NPCs glitching out when they spot her yanking weeds like it's a pro speedrun. They demand to know what the heck she is even doing there, but without even thinking, she basically announces that, duh, she is working the soil. After all, it is a basic step of farming, where she removes the weeds before planting any crops. The butler-looking guy seems really impressed by her skills, but then the slick-haired man tells him to shut up, because vibes only. They then ask Hazel if she is seriously planning to start farming here. She is like, yes, planting roots and living rent-free in her own main character energy. This man is really getting a neck pain just looking at her, and he feels like she should be kicked out. But Hazel stands up and literally shouts if they even know who she is. This man scoffs, because bro thinks he's in his villain arc, and says that not a single person who claims such a thing actually deserves to be feared. She could even be the only daughter of the gold dragon, and it still would not matter. After all, this is the Emperor's garden. Hazel, however, scoffs right back and says that she may not be the gold dragon's daughter, but she is the one person His Majesty cannot kick out. She is a Mayfield. This makes the man flinch so hard, it looks like he just lost a PvP match. He asks her if she is the one they have been desperately looking for. Hazel is like, yes, exactly, and her grandfather is the one who handed this land to her. She shows them the notarized document as evidence, with the vibe check of an official seal. It is proof that he is her grandfather, and she is the only heir. She happily questions if this much information is enlightening enough. The man goes pale, because yikes, it is true, but at the same time he is really angry. He sees that this is an official document with an official seal, so why the heck did the owner have to show up last minute like a plot twist? He scratches his hair in frustration, looking like his whole life just lagged, and admits that Hazel will have to forgive them for their rudeness. They never thought the actual owner of the land would appear so suddenly. The Imperial Family Palace's Internal Affairs Division now straight up declares that they would like to purchase her land. Like bro, not even 2 seconds into farming and she's already getting offers, and the surrounding plot was bought for 480 gold. But if she wanted, they could max the payment for at least 600 gold. He smiles, thinking there is no way she will know the ways of the world, and asks what she thinks. Hazel agrees that this is a lot of money, which makes him feel oddly sus. He says she needs to sign the paper, but she glares and makes it crystal clear that she is not going to sell the farm to anyone. She lets them tell whatever stories they want, but she is not even remotely mingling to deal her land, not in their wildest dreams. They truly thought she would be easy to convince, but she refuses to listen to them at all. He trembles. It looks like they need to come up with another plan. At the Imperial Main Palace, in the Hall of Gold, the king announces that the civilian rescue operation in the Valhar region went well. Outside, a silver-haired man is begging the guard that he needs to speak with the king. Hearing the commotion, the king asks what the matter is. The man approaches and states that he is Cecil, an officer from the Palace Internal Affairs Division. He points out that as part of the victory celebration, they expanded the palace, rebuilt the imperial bedchamber, and constructed the grand garden next to it. In the middle of the garden, there is a lot whose ownership was to be transferred to the Empire as soon as the notice period expired today. The king asks if they are talking about Lot 79. The reply is affirmative. The owner of the lot has just shown up and wants to build a farm there too. The people begin to murmur. Baffled that someone would propose a farm in the middle of His Majesty's garden, they treat it like a low-key insane flex, a crude act of defiance. They suspect this might be a classic holding out technique used by greedy speculators, refuse to sell land earmarked for development, then demand massive profit. Everyone labels it bizarre. The king scoffs and tells them to stop acting as if they've never done this before. He notices the treasury minister trying very hard to feign ignorance, and can tell the minister is the one who profited most from exploiting others' situations. Such profiteering is a punishable offense in itself, and the audacity to do it inside the palace makes it worse. The king makes it clear they have made a foolish mistake and will receive no compensation. These malicious practices might have been possible before, but under his rule they will be uprooted. As punishment for their greed, he orders that the offending owner be stripped naked and thrown out, made an example to the people. Cecil blurts out a hesitant objection because the owner of the land is a young woman who is not yet 20 years old. This news makes the king freeze, the whole hall going quiet with a collective, stunned, yikes. The whole place is full of murmurs, like a buzzing beehive of scandal. The minister rises dramatically, asking if they should erase the punishment statement from the record. The king, all baffled and blinking like he missed 3 chapters of the plot, says that the guy can keep it. He coughs, and then throws in a spicy question, asking if the owner is really who they say they are. A young woman, Cecil, drops the paperwork bomb and says he checked the documents, and apparently, the so-called fraud master is actually of noble status. The people lose it, murmuring louder, calling her a noble woman of Vrat. Then the whispers get extra spicy as they also tell her she's supposedly from House Mayfield, but no one has even heard of that name before. Everyone's side-eyeing her, saying she looks way too different from a commoner, so maybe she's a fallen noble. The pig-faced man, yes, that poor dude, looks shocked out of his tiny piggy brain, ranting that even a fallen noble should at least have some dignity. Like, how dare a noble lady of the empire behave in such a messy, scandal-core way? The king suddenly slams down that royal shh, telling everyone to shut their mouths. Because, according to him, all this chaos is exactly what she wants. Her little villain origin story of becoming the center of attention through scandal. And he's not having it. He drops the mic. From this moment forth, everyone in the palace is to ignore the greedy speculator and owner of Lot 79. Period. Forget she even exists. Delete, block, unfollow. Someone turns to Cecil, throwing shade, saying what an embarrassment he is. Cecil, all sheepish, just mumbles that he has no excuse, because Hazel really was a handful. He tries to explain to the head minister but then realizes, oops, there's literally a ban on talking about her. The head minister, side-eyeing like a tired teacher, tells him to keep it quiet. Then the head minister pulls up to the king like, bro, we need to talk. He apologizes that a literal speculator managed to sneak into the lot right beside His Majesty's bedchamber and cause such a royal nuisance. He promises he'll clean this up once and for all. The king says that's right, because new officers still have a lot to learn anyway. Meanwhile, all the noble ladies are still busy wondering about the upcoming ball. The minister, barely holding it together, brings up the topic and asks the king which lady he's going to escort this time. Without missing a beat, the king answers immediately. Athena, of course. Cue minister, about to get a stomach ulcer right there on the spot. The minister tells him that he absolutely cannot do that, at least not for this ball. He suggests maybe picking someone else besides the Grand Duchess, but the king shuts that down instantly, saying he can't do that. What if people think he's interested in them? Nope, not happening. There's supposed to be only one woman he should be interested in, and that's the future Empress of Vrat. He then orders the minister to stop wasting his royal screen time with this gossip nonsense and focus on actual duties. The minister stares at him, thinking back to the time when he literally served this kid, since he was wrapped up like a little silk dumpling baby. And now all he wants is to pinch those royal cheeks so badly. Instead, he decides what he really needs is a strong drink, because even a sip right now would feel like enlightenment. Some man in the corner mutters that it looks like Hazel had the right idea, but she's in deep trouble now. Majesty isn't gonna let her slide this time, and honestly, there might be some kind of bloodbath incoming. Meanwhile, Hazel herself, after doing all the exhausting cleaning, is just sitting back, thinking that now is the time for some rest, and homegirl just wants a nap. Hazel is about to eat when someone knocks at the door. She welcomes the mystery man. Seeing badges on him, she low-key thinks he must be some kind of high-ranking official. For a late-night visitor to show up like that, the minister shrugs it off and says it's just a land, after all. Hazel lashes back in her head. How could he say that? but the poor minister looks exhausted and pale, which makes her feel sympathetic. Farms aren't always frequented by happy guests, and looking at his face, she figures he probably skipped dinner. She sighs, because in any case he is the first guest at her farm, and she's obliged to serve him some biscuits and coffee. She drops something and apologizes, flustered. The minister, however, is lashing out in panic and cannot believe she is seriously planning to move in already. Hazel thinks to herself that this is obviously her home. No one can kick her out of this place. The minister grits his teeth because it seems she has no clue how big the trouble is, and he really needs to teach this greedy woman a lesson. He tells her she is quite brazen. He warns, with official energy, that she has no idea how serious the situation can be. Greedy people shouldn't try to profit off the imperial palace construction, and if she actually intends to go up against His Majesty, well, big yikes. Hazel, baffled and annoyed, wonders what on earth he is even saying to her. She makes it clear that she has no intention of selling the land, and is surprised to learn that her farm sits right beside His Majesty's palace. The minister tells her that the king has already seen through the matter and has banned any mention of the accident. No one is allowed to talk about her. In other words, she has been socially executed. Hazel scoffs internally that it's more like some sort of mock execution, and she's fine with that as long as it doesn't affect her farm. She keeps talking about the farm, but the minister warns her not to get her hopes up because she is likely to be kicked out. When Hazel insists that she is the rightful owner of the land, the minister slams his fist, figuratively speaking, but the energy is real, and declares that, for now, they will solve this legally. He reminds her that he is the Minister of Internal Affairs and has been around this place for so long that he remembers the laws everyone else has apparently forgotten. He says he can find a dozen reasons the property should be evacuated and confiscated. He snarks that they should begin with the sanitary laws of the palace, because that is an obvious place to start. Hazel sees that this isn't an empty threat. The minister is the real deal, official and relentless. Realizing she needs to stop him, she starts to wave her dust cloth at him, half in defiance, half in desperation, an oddly domestic but determined counterattack. He coughs dramatically, claiming he is allergic to dust. Hazel smirks, already suspecting that would be the case, since in her opinion meat lovers and older men are usually allergic to dust and random stuff like this. This casual jab makes the minister so angry that he promises himself that he is going to do whatever he can to chase her out. But the real gag is that this harmful dust cloud has already fogged up his precious glasses, and Hazel should honestly be prepared that she is going to get kicked out for this. With that, he storms off in peak grumpy old man fashion. Hazel, however, is left genuinely worried, panicking about what she should even do now. She glances at the scene again, remembering when a couple of stuffy tax collectors once visited. Because of a total misunderstanding, Aunt Martha had greeted them with warmth and hospitality, serving tea like a queen and clearing up the confusion. Aunt Martha even managed to make them laugh, which felt like a miracle in itself. Hazel is really sad now and wonders if that minister is even human, because honestly, since moving here, she hasn't felt anything but stress. Suddenly, though, something occurs to her. On the other side of town, the minister is dramatically flipping back his coat, sighing that it has truly been a long day. He thinks of hurrying to wash away all this cursed dust when he hears someone calling out to him. He turns, sees that it is Hazel, and instantly wonders why on earth she would come here of all places. Hazel, meanwhile, pulls up with the energy of someone who knows a secret, casually pointing out that she knows he is trying to quit coffee. That is why he doesn't have any in stock no matter how much he wants it. She is way too happy to know this detail, like she just unlocked a hidden weakness, and it shows all over her face. He is in disbelief, because judging by his own reaction, she has hit the right nail. Hazel doubles down, saying she is going to meet him tomorrow just like he said, but she also adds a very extra detail, that he didn't touch the cookies she had set out for him. As a host, she is genuinely offended, and she makes it clear that next time she will make absolutely sure he doesn't refuse, no matter what. Just like that, she steps away, while the minister stands frozen in place, mentally spiraling like, what the hell is she even up to? Back at her home, Hazel slams her stuff down on the table, with a mix of determination and pure chaos energy. Biscuits are the luxurious treat in her mind, but they aren't what she needs right now, and she knows she can handle things just like Aunt Martha would. Outside, she looks back and notices that because of the badge, everyone is pretending they can't see her, which makes her grin. For her, this is honestly awesome, and now she is all set to scavenge all that she wants. She is absolutely delighted to see the blueberries waiting for her. Hazel is super happy, because she was not even expecting this much abundance to be here, and she feels like she just scored a hidden treasure chest. She is about to pick some fruits when she overhears a group of ladies talking about ball gossip. They are giggling and whispering about how the king is once again taking the Duchess to the ball. One of the ladies sighs that she is really jealous, but another quickly assures her that she doesn't need to be jealous at all, because the king is basically clueless about the real intentions behind the Duchess. If he ever finds out that the Duchess yearns for him with her entire heart, then he is definitely going to drop her soon. Another lady scoffs, saying that with the way things are right now, it actually looks like the king will surely keep the Duchess by his side. After all, the Duchess is smart enough to hide her true feelings, and on top of that, she is really beautiful. They gush that they have never seen anyone as gorgeous as her, and they straight up wish they could look at her all day. Some of them even admit, low-key swooning, that if only they could be that Duchess, they would get the chance to hold the emperor's hand. They even fantasize that if only he were a knight, or maybe even a poor man, they would totally fall for him the same way. Because, honestly, the two of them have already fallen head over heels, but of course they can't tell anyone how much they love him, since that would be way too scandalous. Meanwhile, Hazel thinks fast, realizing that she really needs to stay hidden until these ladies leave, because she absolutely cannot risk startling them. Finally, once the gossip squad moves away, she picks a few more berries with a victorious little smirk, and then heads back to her house. After doing all the preparations with serious determination, she is finally done. The minister is really stressed, lying on his bed, tossing and turning, because what Hazel told him last night is still playing on loop in his brain like a cursed TikTok sound. He is unable to sleep because of that, so he finally gets up all flustered, like someone who just realized they left their phone in the Uber. The guards outside are yawning so wide, they look like they're trying to swallow the moon, when the minister suddenly asks them to come to the garden construction site before the break because they need to begin working on the demolition. Dragging his dignity behind him, he goes to Hazel's gate and notices that this place is rather quiet, suspiciously quiet, like when a group chat suddenly goes dead after you drop a controversial meme. He thinks that this is better, but also decides he should go and chase her down as soon as possible and then report it back to the emperor, because that's literally his whole job. Hazel greets him and she reminds him with a smirk that if he remembers what she told him last night, then he won't be able to refuse it. The minister is absolutely wondering what in the actual Wi-Fi outage happened to her overnight. Hazel casually asks him to take a seat while she goes full hostess mode and promises to prepare some refreshments. The first thing she presents is coffee. The minister, scandalized, practically shouts in his head that he can't drink coffee. Hazel, however, silently promising that this coffee is going to hit different. The minister is really flustered, so he finally takes the cup, thinking that it doesn't seem harmful at all. He gives it a cautious sniff and thinks back to the last time he had coffee. He is suddenly taken aback, like, what the hell is this sorcery? Hazel, looking all smug, explains proudly that this is called commoner coffee, and it is made using chicory. The minister is low-key malfunctioning because he cannot believe that she actually used chicory root to make coffee. He glances around the room because he simply cannot process this reality. Finally, he takes a sip. To his absolute shock, it is aromatic, smooth, and savory. Without a doubt, this is really coffee. Brother is really baffled, internally screaming, "What the hell is this?" Hazel, glowing with pride, explains to him that if they fry chicory roots and grind them into powder, it can be used as a coffee substitute. Of course, there are some differences between the real thing and this DIY knockoff, but she knows exactly how to brew them so they taste just like real coffee. The thought of the king telling him that no one is allowed to talk to Hazel suddenly comes crashing into the minister's mind, and it makes him shudder so hard he is literally short-circuiting, like, bro, what has he even done? His whole CPU is overheating, but Hazel casually waves her hand like she's silencing a noisy parrot, tells him to shush, and asks him to take a seat. He obeys, plopping down into the chair and starts enjoying his cup of coffee. Finally, the minister breaks down and confesses. He admits that he was actually a coffee addict. Working in the palace can be hectic AF after all, and he always got his boost of energy by drinking a cup of coffee. That's why he downed 7 to 8 cups on average every day. Like, sir, that's not productivity, that's self-destruction. No wonder it made him sick. He says this is right, because he used to feel heart palpitations and couldn't sleep at night. The palace doctor even warned him that if he didn't stop drinking coffee, he could collapse or even die. But that was when his true suffering began. He was too used to drinking coffee every day, so quitting was like uninstalling his favorite app and pretending life was still fun. It was really difficult for him to quit, but the hardest part was when his subordinates used to see him. They would make such a fuss, going full drama queen, and even throw away their own cups of coffee just for his sake. And that honestly hurt him a lot, because he hated making them suffer along with him. If he was being honest, it got too hard sometimes, and he used to sneak a few sips in secret too. But his body didn't take it well at all. It wrecked his stomach, and his heart thumped like a bad EDM remix. Yet, this coffee he is drinking now is different. No matter how much he drinks, he doesn't feel bad at all. That's because chicory is actually a really healthy vegetable. Its roots help to keep the intestines healthy, and this type of coffee is really famous among commoners. It was discovered by poor common folk who couldn't afford the luxury of expensive coffee, so they innovated a budget-friendly version. Hazel nods like a proud lecturer, but as it turns out, it's not just a substitute, it's actually great for his health. Truly, it feels like nature's gift. Even weeds that look useless can turn out to be really valuable. The minister is really impressed now, practically fangirling over Hazel's farming skills. But Hazel is really confused, staring at him like, bro, what the hell does he even mean by that? He explains in detail that digging up chicory roots, grinding them into a powder, and turning them into a drink must have been a lot of work. On top of that, Hazel must have stayed up all night and expended so much effort just to show him the truth. He chuckles, realizing out loud that she must have wanted to get back at him and help him reach a major realization, since she was upset when he said that farming was useless stuff. Hazel is totally startled by this and assures him that it was not her intention at all. But the minister insists that if that isn't the case, then why is she doing all this? Hazel sighs, her whole vibe dropping into soft confession mode. She admits that, of course, she was hurt when he said farming was useless, but she forgot about it soon enough. The reason she made him this coffee is much simpler, because he is the guest of Manhwa Farm, and the very first guest at that. In other words, Hazel just wanted to serve him something he would like, whatever that may be. She wasn't really trying to get back at him, she was simply doing what she enjoys. Hazel loves farming, that's it. Just a few days ago, she was getting reprimanded by her rank manager and struggling with endless calculations. But now, here in this place, she is genuinely happy. This is her joy, her peace, her vibe. That reminds Hazel about yesterday. Yeah, she was way too careless. She was so embarrassed she couldn't even call herself a farmer. That's exactly why she went all out to prepare this masterpiece, and the centerpiece is this blueberry pie. She knows it's going to vibe perfectly with the coffee, so obviously the minister should try it. But the minister is sitting there thinking, nah fam, he doesn't even vibe with sweets like that. It looks like he's gonna have to fake it, pretend he's into it, just to not look rude. So he steals himself, takes a bite, and then boom, plot twist. It's not too sweet at all. Hold up, the sweetness is there, but it's soft, subtle, not that in-your-face sugar overload. He's shook, he asks her if she even used any sweetener. Hazel nods like, yup, he's right. The berries were so sweet on their own that she didn't need to add a single grain of sugar. Then she flips it back on him, all cheeky, asking if he wants to know where she got those berries from. With full chaotic energy, she just drops the bomb that she plucked them straight from the Majesty's garden. The minister is utterly gobsmacked, like jaw on the floor shocked. Hazel just grins, flexing like she's even gonna tell him exactly which spot she raided them from. Fast forward to at least 3 cups of coffee later, Hazel casually asks if he wants another cup. But the minister waves it off, claiming he's already full translation, caffeine meter maxed out. Hazel pops up, stretching, and announces that now it finally looks like they can start really talking. The minister is mentally like, bro, we've been talking non-stop this whole time, haven't we? Hazel, meanwhile, is fidgeting hard, pointing out that what she's about to say is actually super important. He sits up straight, ready to hear her out, like it's time for the heart-to-heart DLC. Hazel goes into full explanation mode about why she's the rightful owner of this land. And first off, she makes it crystal clear. She's not trying to sell the land for some extra coin. Nope. She's seriously just trying to build her farm here. Period. The minister blurts out that he already knows this, and Hazel's like, wait, what did you just say? He's so embarrassed he can't even make eye contact. Honestly, it's low-key hilarious. He gets up, flustered, declaring that he had a totally wrong idea about her all along. Now he's saying he should dip, like right now. Hazel jumps up, dramatic, asking why he's leaving so soon. She insists he wait a moment, and before he knows it, he's being loaded up with gifts like it's Christmas morning. Meanwhile, one of the guards calls out to him. The minister turns, asking what's up. The guard looks baffled, straight up confused. Because wasn't he the one who gave the demolition order earlier? The minister just waves it off and says it's totally canceled at the office. Cecil, standing nearby, stares at the minister like, bro, what even? It looks like the guy chugged coffee and somehow became the happiest man alive. But Cecil knows, logically, if he really drank that much coffee, he should already be half dead, or at least twitching. Yet here he is, beaming so hard, it's almost suspicious. But no, the minister is just radiating happiness, like the universe is suddenly in his favor. And honestly, it's all kinda perfect. Cecil asks him if he's talking about his report, but the minister, with that smug grin, is like, of course not. Nah, he's talking about this pie he's demolishing like it's the best thing since sliced bread. Cecil, looking all soft and UWU, peers at it and asks what kind of pie this even is, because he's never seen anything like it before. The minister drops the answer, it's a bushberries pie. Then he side-eyes Cecil, asking if he had any idea that there's this much abundance of bushberries chilling in the Majesty's garden. Cecil's like, no clue. And the minister just laughs it off like, exactly bro, him neither. He goes on, ranting, saying it seems like they haven't had any of those berries around the palace for ages. Cecil, being the poor innocent soul, asks if the minister's talking about bushberries. The minister full-on shouts, what kind of nonsense he is spitting? He wasn't talking about fruit, he was talking about interesting people. He yells that there's not a single interesting person in the palace, and he's already said 1,000,000 times that the garden is overflowing with berries. Like, why is Cecil so slow? Poor Cecil is literally in denial, looking around like, what dimension did he just walk into? Then the minister casually adds that he's going to clear his schedule for the day. Big boss energy. He drops a stack of books, and Cecil asks, but doesn't he already know all these by heart? The minister waves him off, saying he just needs to confirm something. He skims through the pages, nodding, and, yep, it's exactly what he thought. The man declares it like prophecy. The winds of change have begun to blow through the palace. Next day, Hazel steps out of her home and sees a box sitting there. Suspicious but curious, she picks it up and realizes it's from the minister. She can't help thinking, wow, this man is actually interesting. She flips through the papers he sent her, and her reaction makes it clear. Whatever's inside, it's juicy. Later, we see her slamming those papers onto someone's desk. The ladies there gasp, whispering if they should just ignore her. Hazel scoffs, savage mode unlocked, and tells them they can pretend she's invisible, but these documents? Not so much. She points out, with all the sass of a lawyer in court, that as a rule of thumb, private property cannot exist within the imperial palace. But plot twist, there's an exception. If it's a salon run by a noble lady, everyone's jaw drops because, of course, most people forgot this dusty old law. Hazel makes it crystal clear. No one can force her out. If they've got anything to say, they can take it up with her hat. Thank you very much. And just like that, Hazel's little farm officially levels up into a salon. Meanwhile, across the palace, the winds howl dramatically. The Majesty herself opens her eyes, confused, and wonders aloud, what is that smell? The morning light streams into the Emperor's chamber, golden beams bouncing across walls already trimmed with gold, making the room shimmer like a jewel box. It is filled with a silence so calm, so perfectly still, that it feels more soothing than any beautiful song ever sung by mortals or gods. Every morning, the Emperor begins his day fresh, crisp, and pristine like hitting a cosmic reset button. But not today. Nope. Today, the vibe is totally wrecked. Because the Emperor is smelling something really different. He rings his bell with a sharp snap and calls for his butler, demanding to know what in all the heavens this situation is about. The butler, straight-faced but low-key dying inside, informs him that the smell is manure. And the Emperor, instantly unamused, yells that, yes, he knows what manure is. He isn't 12. Thank you very much. What he actually wants to know is why the manure smell is invading his sacred chamber. Then it hits him. His brain sparks like, oh wait, what happened to the fencing around the construction site? The butler, stiff as ever, admits that the guards removed it last night. Bad idea. Big mistake. The Emperor slams his hand down, demanding to know why on earth that happened. The butler, brutally honest in the most, he just work here, sir, tone, says he has no clue. Nada. Zero. The Emperor orders the Minister of Internal Affairs to get his regal self over here already. But, plot twist, the minister is actually already here. arriving full shining and smug, like a peacock at sunrise. The emperor narrows his eyes and demands to know the meaning of this mess. The minister raises his hands like, "Chill, bro." He is just as baffled. When he checked, he discovered that the owner of the farm next to the palace has submitted an official application to open a palace salon at Lot 79. Yeah, a salon, inside palace grounds. Apparently this is legit. The minister just learned of it himself, but there's an ancient law lurking in the archives, like a dusty old meme from 2 centuries ago, issued by Ramstein II. The law states that private property is not allowed within the imperial palace grounds, except for one exception. And that exception? A noble lady's salon. The rules are oddly specific. The owner of the salon must be a woman, and once the salon is established, she rules it like a queen, wielding absolute power inside its walls. It is based on some old-school notion that has been widely accepted for generations, probably because men in wigs thought it was a slay idea at the time. The minister, voice heavy with fake regret, tells the emperor that not even an emperor can forcibly evict a noble lady once she has opened her salon on her own property. The emperor literally flinches, like, "Excuse me, did he just hear that correctly?" His chest tightens, because if the Minister of Internal Affairs, aka the top dog of palace law, is saying this, then it must be true. But the emperor's instincts scream otherwise. Is there seriously nothing he can do? The minister clutches his sleeve dramatically, like he's auditioning for a tragic play, and sighs that even the monkey falls from the trees sometimes. This noble lady, she just targeted their weak spot. Truly lamentable. The emperor stares daggers at him, sensing with absolute certainty that the minister is lying, hiding something juicy. But the minister shrugs it off, acting like, what he is even talking about, which only makes the emperor's blood pressure skyrocket. And then, chaotic moment incoming, the emperor pulls out his bow and arrow. The butler practically short-circuits, panicking so hard that his voice cracks as he begs His Majesty to put the weapon down. Hunting is forbidden in the palace, he reminds him frantically. That rule applies to both animals and humans. The air tightens with tension, but the emperor doesn't back down. Instead, he releases the arrow. The sound slices through the silence, sharp and shocking. Hazel, standing nearby, gasps out loud. Everyone thinks he's about to commit royal murder, but the arrow's target is not a person. It lands deep into a packed mound of soil, dust and dirt flying everywhere. The emperor lifts his chin, furious at the mere idea that anyone would think him reckless enough to shoot a human. His shot is only a warning. The noble lady could not possibly open her salon while the emperor stands there utterly speechless. The idea alone makes his face go pale, with a kind of mortified disbelief. He snatches up the document, as if it might bite, and in that instant, the conqueror becomes the conquered.